And boom! Welcome one and all to the MIRTH QUAKE web show. My name is David Batterina, and for the next hour-ish, hour and a half, however long we go, I will be your host through the mayhem and insanity of exploring all things creativity with some brothers, some rock star brothers on the show tonight. Absolutely loving the aesthetic. So expect some deep conversations, some lighthearted fun, prying open the creative brains of my two very, very special guests, Zach and Josh Forbes. Greetings, gentlemen. How are you both?
Greetings. We're doing just fine.
I absolutely love the look. I think this is exactly what MIRTH QUAKE should look like for every episode. So I'm just really, really happy to have you both here. And we mentioned in the green room, Zach, I interviewed you solo back in January. It is wild to think that this has been going on for like that long. But I started the show in October, man. You were episode 20, 26, maybe 27, somewhere around there. Yeah, looking dope indeed. So we had a little bit of a talk, and you've been on some of the Storyteller SmackDown stuff and everything. But now you dragged your little brother into this thing.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you're a terrible influence, man. But I think it's
What can I say?
Josh, I'm super happy to have you here. And yeah, where did you get those shades? Yeah, go ahead, spill it. Where'd you get the shades?
It's asking you, I think, Josh. You answer.
Oh, yes. These I ordered online. I had to go with something a little more unique.
I like the red. Oh, it's good. It's definitely a classic style. The hair, by the way, totally on point, for sure. So you guys are brothers. You create together. You write together. You bounce stuff back and forth. You edit each other's stuff. Like, I'm just really, really curious to explore that process with you guys and to see just kind of how you work together. There are a lot of authors out there that struggle to work with others, and family on top of it. Boy, I can't imagine. But this is fantastic. But the first thing I want to do is go through some this or that questions. And let's do a quick baseline, get to know you. We have done these, Zach, but you can feel free to chime in on any of these. I want to focus on Josh for some of these, and let's see if we can get him giving us some interesting answers to get to know where you're coming from, sir. So I'm going to ask you, just answer as quick as you can. You don't need to explain anything. You can if you want to, but let's go through some of these. First one is let's go cybernetic enhancement or genetic modification.
Genetic modification.
Oh, exciting. All right. Mind reading or shape shifting?
Mind reading.
Okay. Yeah, all right. No, that's fine. Treehouse or igloo?
Treehouse.
You're in Florida. Like, I'm in New Hampshire. It's igloo up here. Like, I just don't really have a choice. Let's go magic or technology?
Technology.
Technology. Dinosaurs or dragons?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaur dragon. Let's go music. Slipknot or Korn?
Slipknot.
Slipknot. All right, good choice. Let's see. You're a vampire, but you're a pyromaniac, or you're a zombie, but you're allergic to blood.
A vampire pyromaniac.
I mean, that would be kind of exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt.
A lot of your life would be lived in fear, or unlived in fear, as the case may be. Let's see. Military aircraft. Let's go A-10 Warthog or C-130.
C-130.
All right, nice. It's good to transport the vehicles. Yep. I would go with the A-10, and I want to park it at a Waffle House while it's playing Freebird over the speakers. I'm just saying. Couple more. Spiders or snakes?
Snakes.
Snakes. Good choice. I've got one right back here. Let's go. Screams or whispers?
Whispers.
Whispers. Creepier. Yep. And last one. Let's go. Horror or comedy?
I watch comedy. I write horror.
All right. No, that's fair. Zach, what about you?
That's tough. I mean, I think it's probably the same. You know, I love like Naked Gun. I love Airplane. Yep. But what I write is definitely a lot more horror.
Right. You know, it's weird because, like, I mean, obviously you guys know, like, I'm a comedy guy, right? I lean into the humor, but man, I really dig writing stories that have the horror elements in them. So for like, whenever I play around or toy around with a short story, it often ends up just being horror in some way or another. I guess it's just a different kind of thing to explore. Like, really, I'm not sure why. I don't know, but people, I feel like if you like horror stuff, you kind of have to have a sense of humor anyway. Otherwise, it's just like a lot, you know. Yep.
As a genre has just gotten a lot broader lately. I think
for sure
stuff counts as horror, so most people can probably say there's an element in it.
Well, you see, in my favorites, comedy horror. So, like, if you're going like Tucker and Dale or Army of Darkness, that's the sweet spot for me. Like, you know, good gags and all the horror stuff. So I'm going to give you guys the floor, and you can both, like, whatever, if you want to go one, the other, or both at the same time, synchronized speech, however you want to do it. But give me your author origin story, and the floor is yours for you know, a minute or so, and just introduce yourselves to everybody, and we'll go from there. Right? So, like, it's all yours. Take over the show.
All right. I've been talking, so go ahead, Zach.
Okay. He's been answering questions. I've been on the show before. My name's right there, Zachary Forbes. I am the older half of the Forbes brothers. We started writing probably back in 2021, 2022, and we released our first book, 3 Rivers Plague. Josh, you hold that up for me?
Oh, yeah, it's somehow.
We released that in 2023, August 2023. That was our first book. We wrote it together. It's a chonker. It's a big one. It's like 200-something thousand words. We call it our post-apocalyptic epic through Pittsburgh. It's got a lot of elements from different genres. It's a little bit of sci-fi. Got kind of like a hero's journey structure to it, but it's mostly post-apocalyptic horror, like zombie stuff. And our main characters are a band from the 1980s. It's set in the 1980s, and our main characters are this band of rock musicians inspired by different real 80s musicians who get caught up in this horrible catastrophe and brought to a shelter because they're famous and important. And then they kind of navigate through this world after one of them gets infected and they're trying to save him. That's why Josh and I are dressed up as we are today.
We always dress like this. He's lying.
Yeah,
of course, obviously.
I sleep in this outfit, actually. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of our story. Josh was the first one to start writing, despite being younger. I was in college. I was away in Gainesville, and he sent me the first chapter of 3 Rivers Plague, and I read it, and I was like, wow, like, this is something tangible. This is something real.
Right.
Yeah, it is. Richard's right. He texted me about that earlier, actually. He keep trucking. He's like 6 chapters in or something. But yeah, so Josh sent me the first chapter. It was something real, something tangible, and I said, you know what? We can do something with this. This could be a real thing. Now we're 3 books in. 3rd book coming out June 20th. Josh, hold that up for me.
Oh, yeah.
Tooth and nail, June 20th. Let's go.
Excellent. Yeah. All right.
So quarantine was a very interesting time, and I was caught in that time where you're going into high school, but it kind of has to be online.
Yep.
So I had a lot of time on my hands, and he was sort of off in college doing God knows what. And so I've just decided to write a chapter because we'd been playing games for a long time. We've been watching a lot of movies, and we kind of just started to see that decline in media that's very apparent now, but it was starting back then. And we were like, we could write a story, but we never really did until that day when I sent him that.
Yep. Yeah. So Josh, for you, like, when did you start, when did the writing bug, like, bite you pretty much for the first time, like, as far as you can recall?
I mean, I've plotted stories out in my head for a long time. I think everybody has.
Yep.
The first tangible draft of a story was probably late middle school, and it never actually turned into anything. But yeah,
Yeah, that's all right though. You're in 8th grade. You're just trying to churn something out that's like you're just having a blast. I
yeah.
get it. You know, I kind of miss the freedom of creating as like an 8th grader, because you really just like you didn't know any better. It's just like everything was great.
Well, you don't know
Um,
how anything works, so everything you write is just nonsense.
yeah, exactly. It was awesome. So there's that. And then so first book, okay, so you started writing and wrote the first chapter or however much, and then you show it to your big brother and you're just like, hey, I did this. Like, was that pretty much it?
He doesn't look at it for like 24 hours because he thinks I sent him some joke on Instagram or whatever. And then
Memes.
he finally looks at it and he's like, oh, wow, that's not bad. And it was bad. I'll admit that first draft was awful. But
Right.
Before we knew how anything worked, before we knew how like present past tense worked, and we were supposed to stay in one character's head, like we had a lot of stuff to learn at that point. But it was something to give us that kick in the butt to keep trying.
Right.
And
Right.
obviously, we ironed it out over the next couple of years.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. All right. Well, I want to get into creative process a little bit, and Zach, we'll touch on yours for sure, but I'm going to have Josh kind of expand on his since we talked about this before. But Josh, I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask every guest on the show, and I've asked your brother before. But when I say the phrase creative process, what is it that pops into your head? Like, what does that look like for Josh?
creative process is looking at something and thinking, oh, how could that work into a scene, I guess. I like to have a lot of stuff around on my walls or my shelves that I can look at and just post a picture in my head. It's a picture of a boat. I start thinking about like water scenes, stuff like that, and how it fits in with the greater narrative we already have.
Right. So you take inspiration from things that are just like immediate vicinity, like whatever's around you.
Yeah, usually.
All right. Are you a morning creative? Are you an evening creative? Like when's your prime time to just like be in your world, get some words down, or be creative in any way?
2:30 a.m.
Okay. It's oddly specific.
Yeah.
And that's very early or late?
It's just staying up every night. I drink a lot of coffee. It's a problem.
I would imagine so.
I can't bring myself to sit down and write during the day. It feels like there's too much else that needs to happen. And so at night, he's already gone. He's asleep. All right.
So 2:30 is kind of like your quiet time, just like, might as well, I mean, like, is this like all nighter material? Like, do you start at 2:30, or is that like when you're wrapping up?
The average chapter probably takes an hour ish. So the average draft of a chapter. So
Yep.
I'm probably up at least a couple hours till 4 or 5 ish on writing.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Oh geez, I wish I was young again. I'm just saying, that's fantastic.
The best decision I ever made was starting to do college online because I don't
Right.
have to wake up early for anything. I just stay up and write, and then
That's
I
your
get my work.
schedule, man. No, I get it. Look, and how old are you, Josh?
I'm 18.
All right. So yeah, I wasn't far off. I was maybe just maybe like my early 20s. But my favorite thing to do was I was actually coding muds and mushes online, which was like online like RPG, like text-based RPG stuff, but you need a coder to actually like make the world and stuff like that. So we would be doing that. And I would start my night at 11 p.m. I had a Mountain Dew and a handful of chocolate covered espresso beans, and would just go to town, and then it's like, all right, 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess I better go to sleep. Whatever. But my schedule allowed that for the time. Now I can't. Now it's like it's 9 o'clock and I'm like, well, I need to go to bed.
Do you still do coding?
What's that?
Do you still do coding?
I for a living I code, but like I don't do the muds and mushes and stuff like that. I mean, that was a long time ago. It was super fun because like honestly, I feel like I cut my teeth doing that, setting up role-playing scenarios for other people. It was kind of like being a dungeon master, but being a coder instead. And so allowing them to work within the story. But I coded an entire like almost replica of New Orleans at one point. So like you'd go down certain streets, certain buildings would be there. You had to describe them all. You had to do it in like a way that was like writing prose. Characters, side characters. You'd code NPCs to interact with other players. Like it was pretty cool. But a lot of people get their start writing because they're playing D&D and things like that. And so this was just one of my many ways into it was that one. So for you guys, now I'm curious because like I want to know how you work together. So let's just talk about the just process wise, right? Like when does something start? Like do you bounce back and forth in terms of like who's writing a new chapter and who's editing or whatever else? Can you guys give me a breakdown of like, let's say you're doing a short story or you're doing a chapter, you just started a new work. How does it work with the two of you to get to a finished book?
Go ahead.
It's a long process. It has its peaks and troughs. We tend to these days map out the story first.
Okay.
At least like a very general outline. We know what needs to happen. We know where it starts, where it ends, and we kind of just cut up a middle. Like this leads into this, leads into this, leads into this, and once we have that, we can improvise a little bit with those individual scenes, but we can at least say, Josh, why don't you work on this part? I work on this part. And once you finish a couple chapters, send it to me. We'll read it together. That way we can kind of keep each other in check as we go.
Right.
But we also still have the freedom to write, a scene, see how it plays out. This character's here. As I'm writing it, I can kind of decide, would Thomas do this? Would Thomas do this? And then if something has to change in the story, because I realize in the moment with Thomas, he would have done something a little different than what we planned, that might affect the rest of the story. But we're always keeping in contact with each other. We're always sharing each other's, documents so we know where we're at.
Right.
And eventually you get to the point where it's all done and you can read through it as one piece. We divide into episodes as well. So that's something that people have given us a lot of praise for, is our stories are very well paced so that you can get through them like quick chapters, and then you finish an episode, you feel like, oh, I've accomplished something, now I can go on to the next episode. We like to make people feel like they're making progress as they read. And so it's very easy to write in that structure as well, because like episode 1, we finished episode 1. Like we feel like we're making progress. Now let's work on episode 2 in a separate doc. And it's very, very easy to organize with that structure. I really do recommend it. And that way we don't have to name 72 chapters. We can just episodes.
Right. So what defines episode for you? Is it a set of chapters? Is it like, or are you just like one chapter is an episode kind of?
Usually an episode has to be at least 6. We never had one that was less than 6. We try to make it sort of a contained story. Not like you don't need the context, but more so it's its own set of chapters that flow. On what he said, I'd say we more so plan out character arcs and character relationships rather than plotting out the story.
Yeah.
Because we know what the character's relationship needs to be by this episode. Do what you need to get them there. If he thinks they need to be hanging off of a crane, I can't really tell him no, but it's just how it goes.
Yep. Interesting.
Too, by the way, Foot in the Grave. If you want to watch a crane action scene, read Foot in the Grave.
That's good. That's good. All right. So this is really fascinating for me because like it's the way you guys work together. And I've got a ton of questions, but the first one I want to ask is, you're writing something together. How do you each have, people have unique voices when they write. So how do you tie 2 unique voices in to make a cohesive story if you're both putting elements in like here and there? How does that work? Or is it a matter of getting used to how your brother writes to try and flow into that? So can you just talk a little bit about how you guys just intertwine both of your creative brains and your writing styles to make one cohesive story that doesn't feel like 2 people bouncing back and forth?
dozens of rounds of reading each other's chapters. So I would say we do have different voices. I tend to enjoy shorter lines in between larger paragraphs. I tend to enjoy using italics more than he does. There's little things that you could tell, but we like to read it enough and try to keep it semi-consistent. If I have to add a short thought line in the middle of his chapter, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah, we do iron it out to make it streamlined as one author. I like to say that because I write Slip Space on my own, right? That's my sci-fi series. So the two authors are Zachary Forbes and then Zachary and Joshua Forbes. There's two different styles. If Joshua wrote his own book, that would be a different author.
Right.
We as a combined voice are an author. We iron out into a consistent style that we agree upon, and we exchange our little ticks with one another when we edit each other's chapters. The only time we really lean into the separate voices is if we have two characters that we're trying to keep very distinct.
Okay. Yep.
This latest book that we wrote does that, I think, the most. It's a very graphic book. It's very graphic, but somehow there's also a young adult storyline in there.
Okay.
With a kid named Maverick, who was introduced in the second book. And he kind of has his own thing going on, a little bit of like discovering himself and what it means to be growing up in this world. And then there's Thomas, who's our main character. He's been there from the beginning. He's more adult. He's a little more philosophical.
Right.
And so when Josh is writing the Maverick stuff, he can kind of give a little bit of his voice to it, a little bit of the sort of quizzical like nature of youth. And then when I'm writing Thomas, I kind of avoid that and I make Thomas more like uniquely my voice. And so it does make it seem like these two characters are looking at the world in a different way. But obviously grammatically, stylistically, we try to iron everything out.
Right.
So it's a good consistency throughout the whole story.
So in terms of like technically how this works, so you do like a shared Google Doc type of thing?
Yeah, exactly that.
So Josh, like you'll put some words down. Zach, you'll bounce in. You may add to it. You may you're basically doing an editing / adding pass.
Yeah. I mean, we have a couple drafts, right, by the end of it. So the first draft is Josh has written what he's written. I've written what I've written. We lump it all together into a doc.
Gotcha.
The second draft is we've read through the whole thing together. And like Josh said, he's added little thought things into my chapters that align with how he writes. And I've added like certain repetitions or just little stylistic things that I do into his chapters. And by the end of that second draft, it should be a combined voice.
Yeah. Fascinating, man. It's so that's good. Now, what about after that, when you've got your combined, your second draft is done or whatever else? Now it's time to start getting this thing polished to be part of the book that's going to be published. So what happens when it's time for all the edits?
Fighting. Like
we joke about this. This is kind of a personal joke we have, but there's always a big fight.
Okay.
Every book it almost breaks out into a fist fight. The first book we had a big just sitting in the car outside the gym and we were talking to each other and Josh was like, after Kennedy loses his Magnum in his 357 in book 1, towards the middle, what if he picks up a new gun and he just has something else the rest of the story? And I was like, well, that's his signature weapon. You'd think Kennedy would go and find it. When last we saw him, he was chasing the guys who took his stuff. He can get it back. And Josh was like, yeah, well, signature weapons are kind of stupid. And I was like, okay, yeah, you think so? And it just turned into this, does he get the Magnum back? Does he not get the Magnum back?
It turns into, is it a new Magnum or is it the same Magnum?
Right. And I'm like,
how many Magnums could there possibly be out here?
I was like, what are the chances he finds another 357 Magnum? They're just lying around Pittsburgh. And it was this big fight. But we do that every book. There's always something. And it's healthy. It's healthy.
Oh, I
And
agree. Yeah.
same thing happens on movie sets. You know, the most chaotic movie sets that have fighting and Tom Cruise yelling at the stagehands, those are the best movies because it helps. It makes everybody lock in and say, this is what we need to do. Maybe Tom Cruise is right. Maybe we should change this. It forces you to think instead of just pushing out your first draft and it's
You know, there's a lot to be said for that. I remember a story about um, Mad Max, A Fury Road, where Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron literally did want to kill each other in a lot of those scenes. It was like everything was hot. They were covered in sand. They were thirsty. They were cranky, and the movie's great. So like, you know, it works in the end. I don't think they're talking to each other afterwards, and like you guys are, and that's good. You're brothers. You have no choice.
We get over it.
Yeah, see that's all right. But I mean, like those are healthy creative differences. You know, and I guess it's a matter of just like finding it's a matter of both of you, I suppose, stepping back and saying, all right, what is actually best for the story?
Yeah.
You know, and then making the decision. So what was best for the story in that particular circumstance?
The same Magnum.
Yeah, he did. He got his gear back. But I mean, this hasn't happened yet, but we are planning a future story where he gets an upgraded version. That's probably
All
gonna
right,
be
there
like
you go.
book 5 or something. I did concede that eventually the characters can lose their signature weapons. I thought that makes sense. It's a big thing in the story, and it might make the reader more invested. But
There was
It
the
is
great
a
fight
in that instance.
screen where he
it
got
is,
back.
it is it's a fair concession. You're making a fair concession.
And there's been lots of times where it's not quite that serious. We don't like get in each other's throats.
Yeah.
But Josh he'll recommend something to me. Like, what if we did this change? And I'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I already wrote that chapter. Like, I like the way it is. And then I'll go to sleep and I'll just be thinking about it all night. I'll be pissed off. I'll be like, I can't believe he wants to change this. And I'll wake up the next day and I'll be like, damn, like maybe that would make the story better.
Yeah, maybe it was right. Yeah.
And then I'll concede to him and we'll change it. And that's happened a million times.
Yeah.
The greatest instance of that was us changing the gender of an entire character after like half the book was written.
You're right. And that was a pain in the ass to go back and change every single he to she, because you can't command F he.
No.
You know how many times you say he in that book?
A lot.
You can't do that. So I had to read bit by bit by bit to change every single one. He was right, but it pissed me off that he was right.
Yeah, I imagine so. That's brilliant, man. So let me ask you this, right? And Josh, actually, I'm going to start with you.
Uh-huh.
What do you see as your brother's biggest strengths in terms of writing?
I think he's crazy, and I think he writes like the most insane action set piece you could think of.
Okay.
Like it's just something that we haven't established in the story or whatever. It'll exist somewhere. I'll have said maybe one line about it, and he'll take it and turn it into a whole action scene.
Just run with it. And
yeah,
and go to
that
town.
was the crane. I said there was a crane, and somehow that ended up happening.
It's a giant crane fight. All right. And then Zach, what about you? What are Josh's strengths?
Josh is really good at coming out of nowhere with like an emotional beat.
Oh, all right.
I don't know how he does it. It just surprises me sometimes. Like I'll read a chapter and I'll be like, Josh, this was supposed to be just kind of like a bridge chapter into the next episode, and like you made me cry.
Right.
Like why did you do that? There's a villain in this third book, in book 3, an antagonistic character that I just wrote as kind of like a henchman to the main villain. He's just kind of a one-off, like, yeah, this guy has a crossbow, that's his identifying feature.
Right.
And Josh gave him a whole backstory with like a mother with schizophrenia, and like he's trying to get her medication,
Right.
and she's seeing stuff, and he's trying to take care of her. That's why he's in this community. And you know, he goes and he makes her some soup, and then she's like coming out of a breakdown, and she's like, you know, Shaw, like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm just like, now I care about this guy. Like, why you make me care about the villain? Like, what are you doing? Why did you write this?
I like it.
It's like, yeah, he can do that. He can pull that out of nowhere.
Nice. What for both of you, I'm curious, what is your and Zach, I may have asked you this before. I just can't recall because that was an episode a long time ago, and that's what happens. Me and my advanced age. But what is your favorite? What is your favorite thing to write? Like, is it dialogue? Is it the action sequences? Is it setting the scene? For which one of those things for you is the one where you really feel like you can dig in and bring it?
Yeah, I mean, everything has its place. I like parallels with dialogue. I like having lines like that come up throughout the book, where like
Okay,
it's almost like snarky. Like somebody says something to someone, and then 2 episodes later, a situation happens where that person gets to say the same thing back.
you throw it back. Yeah, yeah,
I like that kind of stuff, but I think just in the moment, my favorite stuff to write probably is action sequences. I
gotcha.
really enjoy just like the putting together of the puzzle. Like, I need to introduce this object this many chapters ago so that it can come into play here, and it doesn't feel kind of shoehorned in.
Right,
Um,
right.
Obviously, with the whole crane sequence in book two, that was something that you see very early on, and then eventually you realize that they're using it as a holding cell, and that big box that the crane has actually has a person in it, and
Right, right,
it's
gotcha.
elevated way up in the air, and you get to utilize that into like an action set piece way later in the story, and you
Yep.
get to destroy this thing that you built up earlier in the book. And so I love doing that. I love playing with the pieces and putting stuff where they need to be so that these
Nice.
characters have this big showdown and take everything down around them.
Yeah, yeah, decorate the scene, man. Exactly.
Yeah.
Josh, what about you? What is that moment when you're writing where you're just feeling like, oh man, I can't wait to like dig into this? Is it the dialogue? Is it the prose? Is it the emotional stuff? Like what is it that gets you going?
I think it is the dialogue. I enjoy writing very real dialogue. In real life, dialogue is very awkward, very short winded, and I enjoy writing very quick bickers back and forth. That's something I do a lot that he doesn't do as much. I'll skip the he said, she said, just do line from one, line from the other, back
Yeah,
and forth for 5 lines, just a very quick argument. And I think that's my favorite thing to write.
nice. I mean, look, when you have characters with well-established voices, you can do that and just like get rid of the tags. And I love that in stories that I read because it has that sort of quicker pace to it. I feel like I'm right in there with them. So yeah, no, that's definitely good stuff. Um, so for both of you, and Josh, I'll start with you on this one. Do you feel like you're better um, writing a scene or creating something or writing a chapter, what have you, when you have a solid plan for it, you know where it starts, where it ends, and everything you need to hit in the middle? Or do you feel like you're at your best when I'm not getting into the plotter versus planter argument. I'm so tired of it on Twitter. My God. But kind of like that's the crux of the argument. Like, do you enjoy just like, let me see where these characters take me, or are you more of like I want the structure to create it?
Usually, I think until I can reach the midpoint of the chapter, and then I can write a couple paragraphs somewhere towards the middle, and then I can start writing towards the beginning, and it feels like there's already an end in sight because I know that I need to get to this part, bridge the beginning to the middle, and then finish it out. And
Okay,
that's
so hold on. All right, no, I need to probe that. Okay, so you have an idea, like your starting beat and your ending beat for like a chapter.
a very unique dialogue line is usually what I'll do. If I know
Okay, so like
someone say something.
something pops into your head and you're like, oh, this back and forth would be fun somewhere in here.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll put that down and then fill in what leads up to that and then fill in after.
Yeah, and then just keep going.
That's wild. All right. No, that's good. Zach, what about you? Like when it comes down in terms of having the direction or just sort of letting the scene take over. Yeah, actually, like really in particular with action scenes, that's what I'm curious about is do they does it ever surprise you that they end quickly or don't go exactly how you thought they might?
Yeah, it does actually. Because, like I said, I like to let my characters choose what
Yep.
they do. Like our characters have very distinct personalities. Thomas it can get set off very quickly. I mean, he's changed a lot throughout the books, but in book three, he is someone that can be brought to violence very quickly. But he's also someone that tends to be a little more quiet and reserved.
Okay.
He can end something quickly. He will. Well, then we have Kennedy, who is a little more sassy, but also very smart. And so if there's something absolutely crazy that he could do to get the upper hand, he'll do it, you know? And so
Gotcha.
if I'm writing the scene and so an opportunity reveals itself that I didn't think of while I was planning,
Right.
if the character is going to do that, well, the character's going to do that, right? I'm not going to write it so that they don't, right?
Sure.
It's what they would do. And so more often than not, it comes to that. It comes down to this character has found this opportunity and now they're going to exploit it according to their personality.
Right. Huh. All right. No, you know what? That actually just makes, a whole lot of sense, man. You know, and just letting the character have their voice and letting them do, like, you know, letting them work with it, but you kind of know the structure of it anyway. You know, so it's all you. I'm curious, all right, it's like the dynamic writing, like between the two of you, is just it's creatively fascinating for me because we all work in our way creatively. Nobody has an identical creative process to another person. So is there ever a time, again, Josh, I'll start with you. Is there ever a time where, you know, you feel like one of you is like tuned in and wanting to churn out story and write and get the ideas down, and one of the other, either you or your brother, is in a state of mind where it's like, you know what, I'm a little overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. I can't do that. I can't deal with that right now. How do you balance both having the motivation and, you know, not being burnt out or anything like that, so you can consistently create something? Or are there periods of time where it's like, you know, a couple weeks will go by and you're just like, I can't, I'm not into it right now?
Usually the cycle after the first book came out, because that's kind of an isolated case. After the first book, I would have a lot of steam, start the second one, and then I get in these really big dry spells, usually of a month or two, sometimes longer than that, where I'm focused on something else. I'm not present enough to write that book. And that's where he'll take over. He'll write a good portion of the stuff we marked out for him. And then when I come back, I have kind of that outline already. Realistically, he needs a lot less guidance when he writes. He pantses it, for lack of a better word. Right. And then I come in and I finish it, and then I'll have full steam. We'll finish the story, and then the cycle repeats.
Right. All right. So tag team. I mean, really, you know, and that's pretty cool, because like for the individual author sitting there, when you have a dry spell that lasts, you know, 6 to 8 weeks, that sucks. For sure. So being able to have brother there to just sort of pick up some slack, you know, and keep things moving, I imagine that just kind of helps the overall process, really. You know, are there ever, when you have a hard time, like writing or getting something down, is your dry spell just usually due to like whatever's going on in life, like at school, it's this other stuff and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it used to be that back when I was doing real school, there would be a lot of that. I'd be tired a lot. Yep. Now, the most recent dry spell, I think, was just a lack of motivation. Every time I tried to write the same scene so many times, and I kept not being happy with it. Yeah. And that just like cripples your like sense of self. And I needed to take that real long break. And I came back with a fresh head and we finished the book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Zach, what about you? Like, do you feel that as well when you have that sort of like, there's a lot going on, I need to hand this over to my brother for a bit, or are there times where just both of you are like, you know what, we need to put this aside for a little while?
Sometimes we both take a break. Usually it's like a conscious choice. If we both do, it's like, hey, we just finished this book, let's take a minute. Or, hey, we just finished the first draft, let's let it sit and then look at it in a couple weeks.
Yep.
But when it isn't a conscious choice, usually one of us is in the mood for it. It's funny how that works. One of us is almost always writing. And so for the person writing, it's frustrating because you're like, damn, I really want to share this with him. And he can't make time to read it and edit. But in reality, it probably is helpful just because something's always getting done.
Yep.
For me personally, a lot of times when I'm not in the writing headspace, I'll be doing the back end stuff. Like I handle our social media for the most part. Gotcha. I schedule the YouTube interviews. I do all the marketing and the ads. So if I'm not in a headspace where I can be creative, I'm at least in the headspace where I can handle that stuff. and
Right.
that stuff has to get done anyway. So at least it gives me some space to do that managerial side of things.
Sure.
That's how we end up here. That's how we end up doing competitions and, buying ads on BookBub and stuff. It's because I do make some space for that.
Right. So, in terms of that stuff, like we talk about that as authors, it's like all of those jobs that just we have to do that have nothing to do with just actually writing. So you kind of take the lead on those things.
Yeah, for the most part. Partly because I'm older and I've had social media for longer. Josh isn't really on social media, to be honest. I kind of envy him.
I know. Yeah, me too.
I mostly do it for book stuff, but I'm exposed to everything that comes with it. And,
right.
I'll tell Josh, like, hey, there's this drama going on. Josh is like, oh, that's funny. Like, well, it's really serious. And, this person upset this person, and, there's this political thing going on. And Josh is like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. Wow, bro.
maybe you're right. Maybe it isn't all that.
Look, I get it. And what do you do? So you're primarily your ex, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
All right. Do you do like Facebook stuff like that or no?
I don't do Facebook. Facebook just didn't feel worth it to me. It's
I agree.
a lot of work and you don't get a whole lot out of it. Most of Facebook, I think probably 80% is bots.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't want to try to get engagement from bots because they're going to beat me in that fight.
Right.
But I do use Instagram. I have an Instagram, Prozac Daily. And then, do we have anything else? I don't think we have anything else. I fled Blue Sky pretty quickly, though. I didn't feel safe there.
It's good for you.
Yeah, especially after the whole thing with the sci-fi competition.
Oh, yeah.
It was coming up on lists, and I was like, you know what?
I don't. Yeah. No, it's honestly, it's better to just. I'm a big advocate for finding just a couple of socials that you feel like work for you, and then just sticking with those. But I know a lot of people that are like, you have to have an account on everything because you don't know where that reader is. And I'm like, well, if I have an account on everything, my entire day is going to be creating posts and not doing anything else. And you're only doing it on each platform, maybe once a day, which means you're not getting any engagement anyway. So it's like, I feel like the laser focus on smaller ones, that's better. Oh, Nathan is asking, what was the Blue Sky sci-fi competition thing? You want to give the quick rundown of what went down?
That's a long story. It wasn't a Blue Sky competition, but that would be a good name for it in hindsight. It was called Sphinx, right? It's science fiction indie something competition, but it was a big competition. It was like the second biggest after the fantasy competition that they do every year. And it was founded by Hugh Howey and some big names in the indie sphere. But a couple of years ago, those guys left, and it kind of got left to the community to run, volunteers and all that. Mm-hmm. And it was okay for a while. There was some controversy here and there. I know Epic Indie had an issue with them when they were a judging team, and that turned into drama back in 2023. But this past year, there was this big controversy about Devin Erickson, who's another author, very outspoken on social media.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of, kind of crazy things. I don't always agree, but he at least tries to back up everything he says, tries to be a little cheeky about it.
Yeah, his big thing is his libertarian thought pieces.
Right. Yep. He's very, very philosophically libertarian, and he provokes people. He's stated openly that when he says stuff, he's probably saying it to provoke you to see what you say back. And so you can only take what he says with a grain of salt sometimes, especially when it's really vulgar, admitting to stuff. Right. Oh, I believe in this. It's well, okay, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't know that you actually do. But anyway, he was in the competition. He didn't even know he was. His wife had added him, which was weird. I didn't know you could do that. You have somebody else add your book. But there's a bunch of people in that group who really hated him in the Discord for the competition, trying to advocate for him to get kicked out, or at least have the judges make a terms of service. And it's like, okay, fine. You guys can write like rules for joining the competition. You can't be this or say this, but you haven't. And you let a bunch of people into the competition for this round with the promise of, yeah, you can be here. And it gave you publicity, it gave you participants. So if you want to block out those people for the next term, okay, you're going to lose people. Those people are going to go somewhere else. But 100%. You're shooting yourself in the foot. At least that's somewhat respectable. You're not shooting someone else.
Yeah.
So they introduced this rules of obligation or whatever, saying like, we value very broad, vague things. We value
diversity. It was very vague.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, we want to be good people. We don't like bad people.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever. It doesn't mean anything to me. And it looks like they're at least trying to just appease the outspoken people and not, that's what I thought it was. I thought they were just saying something to try to appease the people who were upset.
The cancel mob. Yeah.
Yeah, the cancel mob. And then the next day, like 24 hours later, they said, oh, we removed Devin Erickson from the competition for violating our terms of service.
Yep.
And it's like, you just invented those yesterday, and none of them are real. None of them actually say anything of substance. Like, they decided he was a bad person, and you're not allowed to be a bad person in the competition. We just wrote that yesterday.
Yeah.
So they kicked him out. It was a big deal. All the people in Blue Sky were happy about it. So the dominoes started to fall.
Yeah.
I think Mo Lane was the first author to pull out in solidarity. Eventually, the author of Chloe's Kingdom, I apologize, I don't remember his name. It's not coming to me right now. But the authors of Chloe's Kingdom, he dropped out as well. He was in my group for that competition.
Okay.
And my book, Slip Space Turn Alias, was in it. It's a sci-fi book. And I knew, Chloe's Kingdom would have whooped me. It's got a bigger audience. It's probably a better book. That would have kicked me out right then and there, and I would not have moved on. So the fact that he removed his book, I was like, if I move on, that's not a win. I'm walking over the trampled corpse of this book.
Right. Was that I just looked at Gregory Michael? Was that
Gregory Michael? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Gregory Michael. And so I didn't want to take his spot. Certainly didn't want to take a bunch of other people's spots because people were dropping like crazy. So I dropped out. I made this really long post saying what I thought, saying these terms and conditions don't mean anything. Like, you guys are appealing to a mob here. This is a bad look. You got to at least play it fair to both sides. Make a defined set of rules so that if people in the cancel mob or people on the left or whatever are also saying stuff. Like, I know authors in that competition who were like cheering on the death of the president or the presidential candidate in 2024. They were like, oh, I wish, let's try again. And it's like, okay, are those people allowed to be in the competition? Because that's worse. It's arguably worse than anything Devin was saying. So if you're gonna kick somebody out, make a set of rules and apply it to both sides. But if you only make this vague, garbled nonsense and kick people out because you're upset, well, it's not fair, and I'm not gonna be in that competition. So I left. Yeah. And me, Devin, and Gregory, and all the other people who backed out made a shit ton of sales.
Yeah.
Because everybody came in support of us, and we ended up being the real winners of that competition.
Yeah, for sure.
We got a good.
It's kind of crazy how all of that tends to work out, because I there was a time on Twitter, and it was like kind of like the pre-Elon Twitter, really, where you did, if you slipped and said the wrong thing, the cancel mob comes, they mass report you, all of those kinds of things. And we actually just saw it too on YouTube with John Douglas. Right. Yeah, so he got his channel. They're just like, nah, you're shut down, and sorry, your appeal is denied, and we're not giving you a reason, and there's nobody to talk to. See you later. And thankfully, with everybody tweeting and retweeting and posting, he had Eric July retweeting him and stuff like that. Just to draw attention to YouTube's team, because there's not a single person behind it. It's just a mass reporting algorithm. So if 10 or 15 people just say, I don't like this, it's hate speech, then all of a sudden YouTube just automatically takes you down and won't reinstate you. And so, we saw things like that in that pre-Elon Twitter. But it's definitely, after after that purchase happened and it became X, and he's like, you know what? Just say whatever you're gonna say. There that pushback, that cancel mob kind of lost a lot of the teeth. Now it's still out there, and there are still people that are terrified of it for sure. Um, but at the same time, it's like we have. I feel like the indie community in particular, and you guys are a part of it, for sure, is like we try to take care of our own, and I think most people recognize, like, you know what, that's a you guys got a shit deal out of that. So yeah, I'm gonna buy your book, I'm gonna support you, I'm gonna do what I can, amplify, whatever else to kind of get the word out. And honestly, like it was a few years ago, the whole Hugo Awards, the same type of thing happened. That was the whole sad puppies thing. I don't even remember all the details of it, but I have a couple of friends that had books that were up for the award at the time, and it was a very similar circumstance. People are withdrawing, there's words flying around one way or the other, and this was, oh shoot, man, that must have been 6 years ago. Like I don't even know, it was years ago. So like we tend to see these things, and let me ask you both this then, Josh, actually in particular for you, because you're not really on the social media. But you see this kind of stuff and some of the things that your brother deals with, just in terms of being yourself as a person. This goes to the question of separating the art from the artist. And do you feel like you can just be who you are and write and be you, and it's like totally good, or are you just the kind of person that just doesn't want to deal with any of the drama at all? And then what is it like trying to have a presence as an author when you're doing that? Like, is it possible to do both, to just be completely outside of all these things, but be known enough that you've got traction within the community?
I can be your friend and not like your books, and I can like your books and not be your friend.
There you go.
And that's kind of how it should be, in my opinion. I don't need to know every little detail of your personal life. If the book is good, the book is good.
Yep.
And I'm
coming out.
What?
He's spitting bars.
Oh,
coming out.
That's good.
I'm big on just talking to people online and more so in person on my part. I'm much more less of the try to sell myself on Twitter, more of I'm going to walk into a bookstore and ask if I can sit down and get a table, and we're set up to do that in a little bit here.
Yeah.
That's how I would much prefer to sell my book than deal with all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what about you, Zach? Like, just to balance it, like what, because that's probably the biggest kerfuffle that you ended up in, as an author. Do you see things with sort of like do you throw side eye at these sorts of competitions and stuff now because of that experience?
It's a shame, because like I think that those competitions had like some sincerity to them. Like there is some good that can be done in authors coming together to review and build each other up, and competition helps grow, right? Yeah. Anybody living in a capitalist country knows that, right? Competition is what fuels the economy. Any individual business growing, you're competing. So when you take the author community and you turn it into this friendly, like, hey, let's put our books up against each other with some judges, and we know it's not really an objective thing, but why not? Let's make some fun of it. It's a good opportunity for growth. It's a good opportunity for exposure and getting more eyes on it, right? Getting more people who have read your words and can give you feedback.
Yep.
But it gets into this tribalism, because so many people in the community want to be dogmatic and want to say, well, you can't be an author if you're not a leftist, or you can't be an author if you don't support this movement. And it's like, that doesn't help anybody, right? You're just dividing up the amount of people that you're willing to get help from.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more that those people could give you than they're going to harm you because they think something different from you.
For sure.
And I've seen so many people limit their own opportunities for growth because they take those paths. And it's what happened to this competition. As things, I don't know that they're ever going to escape this image that they've made of themselves, because that's just what it is. I'm sorry, it's SPSFC, not
There you
Sphinx.
go.
Gotcha.
Sphinx was the novella competition. SPSFC is the sci-fi one. I apologize retroactively for saying.
It's all right. We got it.
I actually judged Sphinx.
It's on record. Yeah.
That one's pretty nice. Sphinx is okay. I didn't have any problem with Sphinx.
Can I have one word here? So I was active on Twitter for a while, like very active, trying to talk to people, and I ended up in a Twitter group. I'm still in there. Zach's in it too. I'm sure he remembers the name. Do you remember what it's called, Zach?
Fellowship of the Indie Author.
Yeah, I'm in there. And there's a lot of people in there, and I was trying to talk to as many of them as I could. I figured it's a nice thing to do. And then there was one post I saw. I don't remember who said it. I don't really care. But it was like, as a member of the Fellowship of the Indie Author, we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to promote our other Fellowship of Indie Author members? Like, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here because we should all be buying each other's books and all that. There's something to be said about having like levels, like bars. If you allow everybody to come into this big friendship circle, then nobody is better than anybody. There's no measure of quality. And I think that's ultimately harmful to the to the indie publishing industry.
Right. It's good to compare. I'm a believer that there is some level of objectivity in art. I think that there is objective quality that can be measured. How easy it is to measure is arguable, but being able to compare books in a competition like that, you get to see, well, what am I doing with my character work? What am I doing with my dialogue that isn't quite as sharp as this other guy, that isn't getting as many readers? Or there is objective stuff that you can compare and work on, and it is inherently valuable. Like, that is a valuable experience. The problem comes from judging it based on arbitrary stuff, like, this author said something mean. He shouldn't be in this competition. Well, read his book. Is it good? Is his prose good? Like, apparently Devin Erickson's book is very good. I haven't read it. I have it up there on the shelf behind John Walker, but it's a good, apparently it's a pretty good book, and it doesn't go into politics at all. At least not his politics. It's not about libertarian.
He's very Heinlein-esque for sure.
Right. And so
you'll but it's not preaching to you or hitting you over the head with it.
Yeah, and so it's like some of the people that were asking to kick him out of the competition were saying, "Oh yeah, it's a shame his book doesn't actually say this stuff, because it's actually kind of good." It's well, that's the point of the competition, isn't it? Right. Is it a good book?
That's more so what I was trying to say there. I would gladly read your book, but if it's not good, there's no reason to be trying to promote that kind of stuff. We shouldn't. Being friends and also being competitors is a very fine line. And I feel like when we're friends with somebody, we're going to try to promote their book, even if it's not up to the standards that we set or society sets. And that's why I find it really hard to be friends with other authors. It's just
interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said for lifting up your fellow authors. That's something that I'm certainly a huge believer in. And, and we're all on a different, we're all in a different point in our author journey, so to speak. And, I would never want to be that person that's shunning an author who's just starting out and who's trying to find their voice and all those kinds of things. That's the person, me, that needs to, that needs a little bit of a lift up and maybe a gentler voice and things like that, and if you're looking for a gentler voice, sometimes Twitter is just definitely not the place to go to seek that, which is why it's important to have your smaller circles and communities and things like that. And just like Nathan is saying here, even, Fellowship of the Indie Author, and love them. I'm one of them. Support my fellow members. Absolutely. That kind of thing. There's something to be said for it, and developing a community. I feel the same way with anybody and everybody that's been on MIRTH QUAKE. These are your special people to me, more so than people that I just run into randomly on Twitter that I don't have that connection with, and I haven't had to sit down, because Josh, I'm a lot like you. I like a one-on-one. I want to know what's in your brain. I want to be able to have the conversation. And I have had people on this show that I have vehemently disagreed with on political social things, or anything else. But I'm still going to have you on and talk about how you work and creatively, because that's not your identity. Your identity is much more than just what kind of a t-shirt you're wearing for Team Red or Team Blue or what have you. Team Yellow and Black if it's libertarian, I guess, or ANCAP or whatever. But it's interesting to see how some people draw those battle lines, and they say that no, you think this way, there is no way I can read your words, support your book. I immediately say it's trash. And to your point, Zach, of objective, like an objective opinion of art. If you've ever seen like those modern art installations, like taping a banana to a wall, or what have you, or like if I'm in a gallery and I've got a 10-foot by 10-foot Rembrandt in front of me, and then I got homie over here who dumped garbage onto the floor and is trying to explain to me how it's a struggle between man and his inner self. One of those is art. One of those is littering. To me, I'm not there. Like objectively, I'm like, this is not art. So there it goes. And you may say it has skill, and you may be around a bunch of people that seal clap for you and say that it's that it's brilliant, but like I'm not really there. I think it comes down to just like okay, maybe it's not my cup of tea, right? That's fine. I don't like for me the books that are out there that are all vampire smut novels, not my cup of tea. Not going to read it. Don't find it interesting. Tend not find it particularly skillful or engaging in any way. But that's my taste, and I realize that you may have huge fans of that will buy every single book that you write. And you know what? Great. I'm actually just happy for you. And I want you to live a fulfilled life. Off you go. So that being said, what can you guys break down what some of your personal tastes are in terms of like when you pick up a book and you get into it and you start reading it, give me like 2 or 3 things that are in there that immediately get your attention where you're like, okay, like I'm going to finish this and I really dig it. Like, so what is that for you guys?
You can go first.
So, I mean, I've tried a lot of different things. My favorite book that I read last year was a fantasy book, and I don't ever read fantasy, but it was a fantasy novella, and the prose are so cool. I read it for that Sphinx competition that I judged.
Oh, okay, yep.
Right, and it was a novella, and I adored the personality of the character, the voice. Right, we're in this character's head, who's kind of an unreliable narrator.
Yep.
And sometimes that just comes out of nowhere, right? It's another benefit of these competitions. When you judge them, you get to be exposed to stuff you might not pick up yourself.
Okay, yep.
So there's a big breadth of stuff that I might like. Like maybe there is a vampire smut book that I could pick up, and it was written really, really well. And
yeah.
Great character arcs. Most of them aren't like that, is in my experience. But if there was one, I might like it. Right. The biggest thing to me is just I like a distinct voice. Right, I like to be in the head of somebody that like they're a very defined character.
Okay. Yep.
I like listening to this guy's thoughts. I like anticipating what he's going to do next. He has a very distinct presence, and I'm in this journey with him.
Right.
That's a big one for me. And then I like the snappier stuff. I think that's why we're writing like snappier chapters. I like being able to get through a scene per chapter, just a scene, right? So it's not necessarily jumping to a bunch of different places. I want to just be with this character in this moment for a couple of pages, and then chapter ends. And I'm like, oh, like what's he gonna say next? And I go to the next one, the next one. So kind of these choppy set pieces with a character that I can really get personally invested in. Yeah, because they have a unique voice. That's what I really like.
Right, Josh. What about you?
I enjoy very descriptive novels. I guess they say there's several types of thinkers. People can read something and not be able to picture it in their heads.
Correct. Right.
I don't know if any of that's true.
Don't get me started on that. It blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can picture exactly what you're seeing. And so I guess that makes me like very descriptive novels. But at the same time, I want to be able to look at it and at least think it's plausible. Like, okay, they did research, whether it's a real thing is whatever, but at least tell me you've done the research to where this could feasibly work.
Mm.
I don't write a story about like a soldier guy and not understand how the army works, or
Right.
having get in a vehicle and not understand what the vehicle does. That I absolutely hate.
Right.
I want to know that you did your research.
Yeah.
We get that with gun authors. We use a lot of
Oh,
gun in our
for
book,
sure.
and I can't tell you how many books I've read, and it's like this guy's never picked up a pistol in his life.
That's right. I always, I've been, look, I got my start just like writing nonfiction type stuff because I was in the gun blogging community way back in the day. So this would have been like early 2000s, really. And it was super fun. Like Larry Correa was just like getting started with Monster Hunter International, and he was in that community. Like we had a lot of really good people. We did some blogger shoots together with people that ended up being other authors and everything else. Like just a really good time. And it's really funny because once you start paying attention to those things, even in movies and everything else, it like you end up laughing sometimes watching a serious movie because you're just like that's just not a thing. Like this past weekend, right? My youngest son, he just turned 16, and I was like, you know what? It's time to go through all the John Wick movies. So we're gonna have a John Wick marathon this weekend, and we did, and it was great. And he loved it. He two, I think, was his favorite, and
Okay.
or no, three. I'm sorry, three was his favorite.
3. That's a bold pick.
Which was the one where they had to defend the Continental? Was that
That's
2 or
3.
3?
That's 3.
That was that because that was his favorite scene, right?
Okay.
So that's why he chose it. And like I get it, like that's fine for me. It's 4, then 1, then 3, then 2. Like that's my ranking for them. But we were watching when he was going through like the train stations and all that stuff with Common, and they've got like they're just kind of walking in crowds, or the part where there's this giant fountain that goes up and they're shooting each other through the water, even though there's like 100 people around them. I'm like, look, this is like as much as great as John Wick is, because the people that put together the movies, like they count the rounds that come out of the guns, they make sure he's reloading at the right time. Keanu is like tactical and brilliant, and just the physical way that he does everything. But to have guns with silencers that are going tweep 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 and like nobody knows, like this is absurd. Like that's really loud, and you should have your protection. First of all, like everybody'd be scattering. He's in there fighting the dude in the giant dance hall in the, and everybody's just kind of dancing, even though they're just killing each other with axes. I'm like, all right, there's like this kind of stuff. So for some of them, you suspend disbelief, but for the gun stuff, like I would agree with you. It kind of pulls me out when it's kind of insane. I mean, like, and my writing, like I lean into the absurdity, because it's absurdity. Like I'm not trying to make it. Like I'm not going to go into a book called Space Pew Pew and have accurate faster than light travel. Like it's like I'm not doing equations, buddy. Like
I mean, I love Naked Gun too. When,
right? Okay.
O.J. Simpson is like on the rooftop and Leslie Nielsen's like, cover me, I'm going in. And Leslie Nielsen's like, he's like, okay. He takes the silencer, he puts it on the barrel, he takes a scope, and this is a police service weapon. He has like a magazine. He gets this long barrel up off the ground, gets that on the gun, and then you turn away and you see Leslie Nielsen's like shooting with somebody, and you're back at OJ and he's like mounting a turret, and he's like putting this big barrel on the front of it. And by the time he actually covers him, it's just this one shot, like boom, at the wall. Like, yeah, if it's absurd, it's absurd.
Sure.
That can be funny as hell. With John Wick, by the 4th one, I kind of had to just subscribe to the theory that it's almost like it's in the Matrix.
I know, right? Yeah, kind of.
It's just kind of this world where like nobody reacts to what's going on with him.
It's very strange. Yeah, it gets stranger as the series go on. It's just that that top down shot that wherever it was one shot. That's that makes it my favorite for 4, and plus I love Skarsgård in it. I thought he was a brilliant villain. I was like, all right,
it's gun porn. It's We're gonna see all the different kinds of guns, the incendiary rounds, and
the dragon
kill
gun.
people.
Oh, that's for sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. So let me circle back with you guys and just ask, creative blocks. Like, do you ever get to a point where, Josh, you had mentioned something where it's like you tried to rewrite a scene like numerous times, and then you're just feeling like I have to like pack this in. So first of all, do you do something like, do you switch and like, I need to do something else that's creative? Because like Zach, he's like, all right, if I'm having a hard time, I can't get something out, I can handle some business end stuff. So what is it for you that you do to get yourself out of a creative rut?
I think I have to be creative in more of a plotter way than a writing way. There's maybe 3 outlined stories in my Google Docs that haven't been written. And it's just because that's what I like to do. If I'm
Okay.
not writing continuum, I'm usually like thinking of another idea, talking to whatever, trying to work it out in my head how each thing would flow into the next. And maybe
Right.
one day I'll write those stories, and that's just kind of what I have to do until I can get back in the zone to write zombies.
All right. No, I mean, look, so like world building almost. Like you just
Yeah.
take a break and get it. Yeah. See, that's one of my favorite things to do for sure.
Take a break and something completely different. I think that's why Zach enjoyed writing Slip Space, because it was just such a different genre. It's
Right.
Star Wars Dune rather than The Walking Dead.
Gotcha.
I have things like that. I've tampered with like mythological story stuff that isn't zombies. Just something to get your brain turning in a different way. That way when you come back you're excited to write zombies again.
So for Continuum, you're like, you're leaning into dystopian and zombies and things like that, but also like 80s metal, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Okay, perfect. And so let me ask you, what are some of your favorite zombie tropes or zombie films or content? Is there anything that for you is just like, yeah, this is where I draw a lot of inspiration from?
Okay. So one of my favorite movies of all time is this movie called Legion. And it's who was the guy who played Vision in the Marvel movies?
Yeah.
Paul Bettany.
What is it? Right.
And so he's Saint Michael, the archangel, sent down from heaven, and the first thing he does is break into like a police station and steal all the guns. And the movie is about him defending this gas station from like hordes of these like undead, twisted demon creatures. And it's silly, it's goofy, and it's one of my favorite movies because of that. They have so many like stupid tropes. And for tropes, it's like there's always the fire axe in like the building. And we play into that once. We use a fire axe at one point in a place it probably shouldn't have been. And that's something funny.
You need that like random blunt object, either a pan or the fire extinguisher is another good one, because that one's always used to beat the hell out of somebody.
We've gotten much more creative. Zach was talking about making a list of every just item Thomas has used to kill a hunch and just put it out there.
Like a little shopping list almost. Yep, that's good.
The hunches are zombies, by the way.
What's that?
There's a hunch. Josh said to kill a hunch. The hunches are
hunch. Okay, yep.
Because they're bent over like.
Gotcha. Yeah, yep.
But yeah, no, I pitched that idea to him because he did some scene with like a gas pump, and I was like, this is another thing to the list. Or how many things has he used, or any of the characters? How many things have they used to kill zombies by this point?
Yeah, gas pump's got the sharp metal nozzle.
It's like nunchucks.
Get it in there, squeeze the handle. Yeah, exactly. Flick the cigarette. I love these tropes. Like, these are the best. What else for movies or shows like really like hits you for inspiration?
I mean, outside of zombie media, because I don't watch a lot of zombie media. If ever it's monsters, it's something else. And that's why I think our story leans a lot more into noir than most stories. We had a detective character in our first 2 books who was probably my favorite thing to write. And so a lot of that came from Dirty Harry.
Mm-hmm.
True Detective is a Matthew McConaughey show that's really good. Probably the best season of television I've ever seen. And there's Reacher is like stupid military shenanigans stuff. The show is funny. It teeters the line sometimes with me for how plausible it all is, but it's something fun to watch. We watch it together.
Yep.
Yeah, anybody who follows me on anything knows that I'm a big fan of the Reacher books.
Yep.
But we like I said, we lean into a lot of things. We touch a lot of genres. It's a little bit of sci-fi. Tonally, we tend to write our books like thrillers.
Okay. Yep.
They very much are like Josh said, there's a little bit of noir in there, but they're kind of just dystopian, like post-apocalyptic thrillers. The zombies are a catalyst to character development, right? There's something that influences the story and creates an obstacle and obviously initiates this end times because of the plague that created them. I actually have watched the entirety of the mainline show of The Walking Dead.
I was gonna get into that. Yep.
And that is 11 seasons of television.
Oof.
It honestly probably should have been 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But that was a fight to get through. I really like the first few seasons.
Yes.
I would argue my favorite season is probably the one where like the whole it ends with the whole horde coming into Alexandria, and one by one the people locked in their houses decide they're just going to go out and start fighting them. Because that they were trying to defend the gates and the gates fell, and they had all these precautions that just slowly started coming down. And Rick's son gets hurt badly, and he loses an eye, and Rick's like I'm pissed off now, and he just goes and grabs his little axe and he just walks out the door, and he just starts killing them one by one. It's like the biggest horde they've ever encountered. And the priest in the church he's got all his parishioners there, and he's like I'm going to go out there, and the parishioners are like, well, we need you here, like we this is the church, we need to hold it. And the priest is like, we've been praying all this time for God to help us. I think God is giving us the strength to defend ourselves. And it's just this awesome finale, and that honestly could have been the end of it.
Do you remember which season that was? Like which?
I think it was 6. I think it was season 6.
Okay, yeah. I made it. I was watching the show and like really into the show. Loved the first season. I really liked the whole farm thing. With what was the old guy? Boy, he bit it in like a really bad way too. With the whole governor and all that.
Yeah.
Hated the governor as a villain. I really disliked the actor and the character. like
he was better in the comics.
I would imagine so. I would hope so, at least. I made it to the episode right before Glenn died, and I knew it was coming and just decided to stop watching. Because I just felt like there was no reason for me to see that. Glenn was my favorite character, and I'm like, I'm just kind of done. I thought what they were trying to do was too gruesome for the sake of shock. And so I was like, and I know like Negan's a favorite and everything like that. Like I get Herschel. That was it. Yeah. Herschel.
Yeah.
No. And like, that was the introduction of Maggie and her sister, who I really liked, like as a character. But again, like to your point, when you have that environment with like the zombies and the whole, like all this kind of stuff, the first few seasons at least were definitely that exploration of like, yes, this is overwhelming and really dystopian, but it allows you to reflect on what humans do in the human condition and those relationships. And that's something that 28 Days Later did really, really well. Like also, not to mention like the fast zombie thing, which was really cool and all that. But just like, the military guys and just what would the world look like? And like, yeah, sometimes the worst brutality would be coming from the people that aren't undead, which is kind of fun to explore really, because like now you're digging into relationships and you're digging into human condition stuff. And like, that's the sandbox that's really fun to play. Herschel haunts my dreams. Well, yeah, when he was getting hacked, that was awful. Yeah,
that was a great character though.
That was the whole prison thing. He was great, right?
Yeah, I love. Obviously, Daryl's everyone's favorite, right? My favorite was Daryl.
Yeah,
but Herschel was like the heart of it. Losing Herschel was, I think, a big bullet to the foot for the show. It didn't kill it for me, because like I said, I really loved season 6.
Right.
And I love Jesus. Did you get to the part with Jesus? I think that
No.
was. There's a character named Jesus who's just
Oh.
like he just looks like Jesus, but he's like a kung fu expert and like
Oh,
he's
all
really
right.
like real sneaky. He can like he sneaks into Negan's like lair, and
Right.
he was great in the comics too. He lived all the way through the comics. He was one of the few
Oh, nice.
characters to survive. The show didn't give him that, unfortunately.
No, they still had the dude with the tigers and stuff like that.
They had him.
Yeah.
I think he lives. I think he survives the whole show.
Yeah.
But regardless, yeah, I really liked Daryl. I really liked Herschel, and I really liked Jesus. I like those.
That's good. That's good. No, there was this whole thing, it's funny because like I was watching it as the show was like coming out, and then there was this whole thing where it's like, actually like Carol's kind of the baddest ass in the show.
Yeah, Carol gets badder and badder as the show goes on.
He was pretty epic, and her and Daryl had like this kind of like cool like relationship going. There were so many really great elements to it, but again, like it seemed like it started to take the back seat to just like it. I don't want to say like it got absurd, but like at the same time, I was like, I just can't anymore with this. It made great memes. Like the memes are brilliant. The one of what's his name, telling all the jokes to Carl and stuff like that. when like the baby's gone, like right outside, he's trying to tell dad jokes and he's like, would you just stop? Yeah, no, those were good. Kung Fu Jesus is not what I expected in a zombie apocalypse.
I promise he's cool. It's
all right.
A third concept. I promise he's a cool character. Especially in the comics. He's a great character.
There you go.
Such a good idea to have a character named Jesus just because he looks like Jesus.
Nice.
And he's OP, like can fight anybody. Like it's
see, that's good stuff. I mean, I love it. That's kind of stuff is super fun. But there has to be a backbone. There has to be that backbone to the show where it's exploring the gray areas and things like that. I think that's what makes those kinds of things really interesting. And I love the zombie stuff. I've got a project of my own, obviously leaning into the absurdity that has to do with it, but those are favorites either way. So let me ask you guys just to start wrapping up a little bit, because I want to do a little pitch storm with the two of you. But what's so tell me about the release that's upcoming, and then just like, there's more afterwards? Like, just give me the broad overview of the Continuum series as it stands right now, with what you got coming out and with what you guys are looking forward to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's the third book, right? Third book in the series. You can hold it up again, Josh, for our readers. But yeah, it is. We're planning on more for sure. I mean, I think we have at least a 5 or a 6 book plan for this series. The third one, I mean, you could stop or start theoretically with any of them. We try to make it so that that's feasible. There's going to be some context if you start with the third one that you're not going to have. Obviously, how Thomas and Maverick came to be and have this pseudo father relationship. But you can kind of pick up, based on the context clues in the book, what their relationship is.
Gotcha.
And it's a contained story just starting at that point. A lot of movies, like John Wick is a great example of this. Okay. John Wick starts way into that character's story. Like, he's been through and done so much, and you're missing so much context from his life. But part of the story is just going from that point and seeing what this character with this rich history does. And so we try to tell our stories that way. We're like, yeah, this much has already happened, but this story itself is very contained. And if you can just accept that these characters are where they are, it still falls together. And if you want to read our latest release just because you want to see our best work, every new release is theoretically your best work because you're owned and your craft is better. So I always say, if you want to start with the latest book, that's perfectly acceptable. Start with the latest book, and if you really love it, then you could read from the beginning and see how we got here. But this third one is really big on family. It's really big on that fatherhood thing. It's got a little bit of like romance, but it's like the dark side of romance a little bit. Like, there's some manipulation.
Okay.
it's just kind of relationships in general. It's a very character centric story, and we're very happy with it. We both kind of agreed. We think it's the best story we've written so far.
I'm gonna bring it up here on.
There we go.
I
It's
almost
open for pre-order.
lost it when
I have. I've done my pre-order, so like I'm in.
Oh
in.
yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure.
Big
I want
example.
to get you. I'm gonna get you paperback for sure. But yeah, definitely got to support. And like this is something else. Like people, if you're watching, when you find an author on Amazon, like somebody, like just follow them on there. And that's something that more authors should actually be doing, because when you have a new release or you get new work out there, if somebody's following you, Amazon sends them the emails. Like you'll get a couple of them to say, oh, you did something with this, or you're following this person. And those don't tend to get caught up in a spam filter either. So it's just another good way to leverage something that's like, I don't know, like a social media adjacent, I guess, is the Amazon follow list. But definitely. So here, just have a look at it, folks. What they've got up there. And I've said this on Twitter, and I've told you separately and mentioned it too, before. I love what you guys do. And I absolutely I love the fact that your brother's working on something, not to get super emotional, but I lost my big brother 6 years ago. And so to see you guys working together in all of this, it fills my heart, man. I hope you guys do this just for years and years and years, because it's really brilliant. And it's very, very special. And so, I'm thrilled for both of you to just be in this position and to be having a cool new release out. And just like me, people, go ahead, just $3.99. Just hit the freaking pre-order button, right? Get it going, and all that kind of stuff. So, no, that's good, man. And I like the way you do it, where it's clips of things. You don't necessarily have to do the first book. You can kind of jump in and get with it, which is pretty cool. Was that an intentional decision, by the way? Just like you were going to write it this way, so you can just kind of jump in anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want it to be that way. It's not always something you can control. But, I mean, a story is a story, right? You don't have to see it from the beginning. You could, as long as it's not serialized, like the old cartoons where it would end with the laser beam coming up to it's like, will he make it out? Like, tune in next week. As long as you're not writing stories that way, and you are writing a contained story, like you could watch almost any Mission Impossible movie and not have seen any of the other ones, and it's like, oh, this is the mission, this is what the characters are doing.
Yeah,
that's kind of how we want it to be. It's a post-apocalyptic world. The first book is when the apocalypse kind of happens and they're introduced to this world, but every book from that point on is just a story within this world that we established.
Right.
And it follows generally the same characters, but it's a new adventure. It's a new sequence of events, a new character arc. And, I hope people can read any of them and say, oh, yeah, that was a good story.
Nice. Oh,
I don't think you can start with the second one. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm sure you could.
Right.
I think it would be very difficult to start with the second one. The first or the third one is fair game. For 1 and 2 almost function as a part 1, part 2 story.
Gotcha.
That's just clarification.
Yeah, I mean, even then, like the second one, the ending to the first one is a pretty big deal. Like they resolve a problem that's pretty serious. And book 2 begins with that problem being resolved. My opinion differs from Josh. I would say if you can accept that as just being an element of this world and then slowly get introduced to the characters, you can probably get through book 2.
Right.
You can probably do that. That's my opinion.
I got you.
But obviously, book 2 has come and gone, right? If you're going to start with one that isn't the first one, you might as well start with the third one. Right? Start with the newest one.
You're right.
No real reason to start with 2.
This is when Logan's going to chime in, of course. Like, I have to start with it.
He can let us know.
Cost us a sale of the first one.
He can let us know. He can resolve the issue and tell us is right.
Well, look, now you're a guinea pig, buddy. That's how that
Thank you, Logan.
I get to see him at Liberty Con next week. I'm excited to see some of my con buddies. Once a year, it's like a family get together again, which is super brilliant. So let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you one more question, then I want to get into some pitch storm. Right? This is
Okay.
usually the last question that I ask everybody. So I'll ask both of you just to see if your answer has changed, Zach. And I'm really curious for you, Josh. So I'll have you go first again, which is if there's anything that you could change about your creative process or your whatever it is, like how you write, the output, the time, whatever that element would you change anything?
I think it would be a very different style of writing if I did, but I do wish that I could write without needing to plan so much.
Okay.
I think the stories would be a lot more free flow and maybe a little less interconnected, and maybe they would suffer because of that. So I don't know. I don't know if I would change that.
Is there a solo Josh Forbes project on the horizon or not yet?
I mean, there's some things cooking. I don't
All
know
right. All right. Fair
if
enough.
oil or not, but we'll see.
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, look, man, I'll have you back on. We'll do your solo episode. It's all good. And Zach, what about you? Anything change, or you're doing all this kind of stuff? You guys are releasing books together. You've got your own stuff that you've got out there. You're doing the whole social media thing. What would you change, if anything?
Honestly, I don't remember what I said the first time.
I don't either.
5 months ago.
I hope
nobody
it's a new question. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope nobody figures out what it was and then proves me wrong or something. But I don't know, man. I mean, I kind of like my style. It'd be nice to have more time for it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make it the full-time job, but 99% of people it won't ever be.
Yeah.
I envy those people who get to sit and write and that's their career, because that's got to be this really, really free world to be living in, where it's just your job to create. But on the other end of that, I guess I would say, I'm looking forward to getting more life experience. Both of us are very young. Obviously, Josh is 18. I'm 24.
Yep.
I'm just starting my career, right? I graduated college in 23. I did some jobs since then that I didn't really love, and so now I'm looking to the future, starting something real. And it's like, after all that's said and done, I think I'll be a better writer, and I don't think I would regret having started writing so young. But I wonder if there will be more life in my stories down the road just because I've lived more of it.
Yep.
People always say, "Oh, lucky you guys, you started so young." But I don't know. The idea of having such a breadth of experience to pull from really appeals to me. And I'm looking forward to 10 years down the road after I've done what I'm going to do. I think it'll be nice to be able to pull from my experience more.
Yeah. That's a very wise answer. Honestly, that's a wise answer, because there's a lot. I mean, I can say this, like, I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50. Right. So you guys are puppies. And my oldest son is 23, man. Like, so come on. Right. But there's something to be said for some of those experiences that you have. And honestly, both the positive and especially the ones that hurt, and regardless of who you are and where you are, those are going to happen. And it's what you go through and how you come out of them that can really shape some of the ways that you communicate, I think, more than anything else. That's not to say that you guys are poor communicators. Obviously, you guys are having great success, and I'm super happy for you. But it just adds a different element of color to everything that you do. And with that comes a lot of the doubts and everything else, or a lot of late bloomers in writing. A lot of people don't start until they're in their 30s and their 40s, or even later than that. I mean, shoot, like my debut was 2020. I was writing stuff before then, but it wasn't anything like it wasn't a book, or anything like that. But, I think understanding that your path is your own is really important. And this one just happens to be yours. So you got to navigate it the best you can. But for both of you, man, that's just, those are good answers. Like, that's the good stuff. And like I said, you guys have each other. it's worth everything in the world, truly. And let me tell you, that's coming from the older experience of having been through some things that have caused a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So I know you're always like, people are always like, well, you can't really explain that to anybody, and that's true. But you're both wise enough to understand like what the meaning of that really is, and I'm happy to see you guys fighting it out creatively from time to time, because I think it's healthy and wonderful. I wish I had the chance to argue with my brother one more time. I would take it in a heartbeat because it was super fun. Especially when I got bigger than him, and then I started doing martial arts so I could kick his ass. Like, it was great, for a brief period of time. So there's that. Well, let's get into some pitch storm. Let's have a little bit of fun. I'm going to bring up the big old wheel, and we'll at least get through one of these. Josh, we're going to put you on the hot seat.
Okay, glasses coming off then.
Oh yeah, it's getting serious now, for sure. All right, I'm gonna pop chat in here for. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep you guys out for just a moment. Let me grab our big wheel. Wheel, keep on turning. There we go. Pitch storm, keep on burning. Here it is, and I'm gonna give a little spiel for this thing. Let me find a good backing track. There we go. All right, perfect. Next up, we're going to play some Pitch Storm. This little exercise provides us a live, real-time look into our guests' brains. Guests are given a random character, random plot, pitch these two things as a story, detailed as their heart desires. Once the 30-second pitch is expired, there are 2 additional rounds with a unique twist where the story gets repitched. Audience heckling is mandatory. As a lifeline, you get 2 mulligans, so if you have a great distaste for one of the spins, you can ask for a respin, but you cannot respin twice in a row. People tend to look down their nose at people who respin, but I think it's fine. We have had some really, really entertaining ones. So just have at it, man. This is like your time to just creatively do your thing. So to break this down for you, Josh, we've got 2 wheels of characters. We've got 2 wheels of plots. We got 2 wheels of notes. Those are for me. And what you can do is you can pick. They're totally randomized. There's over 4 billion combinations of all this stuff. So your first question is, do you want characters A or characters B?
A.
A it is. All right, let's spin it. Let's see what we get. Zach, do you remember your stories? I don't remember your stories.
I do. The Irish potato.
Oh, right. Oh, man. Didn't that get dark? Was that a dark one? A troubled priest with a talent for exorcisms. Right up your alley.
Sure.
Right? And let's go with plots A or plots B on this one.
Plots A.
Plots A. All right. And let's go struggling to pay for all the damage they caused the city during a recent adventure.
So it's Ghostbusters.
Okay.
You're right.
I mean, yeah, like we could go there, sort of like like Constantine, but Ghostbusters, maybe. I'm not sure. That's a little weird. But I'll tell you what, like, let's have you pitch this thing, and then if you want to throw it to Zach to mess him up for like one round, you can do that. So we're going to do this one. I'll do a notes A and I'll do a notes B, and that'll be the end of it. So let's get it started, and I'll give you roughly 30 seconds. When it's all done, when your time's up, I'm going to play a sound for you. You're going to hear the chimes. You hear them okay?
Yeah, I hear that.
Okay, good. All right, so chimes are pretty much like the timer. So go for it. Give me a story.
Okay, so a priest was very upset with his life, and so he got really drunk one night and got in a car crash. And the man he killed was a banker, right? But during the car crash, he did a lot of damage to the city, right? He hit a lamppost, fell down, took out a street light, massive damages. So he doesn't have any way to get money. And he figures the best thing he can do is go to the bank that guy he hit worked at, the banker he hit. And now he's at the bank trying to conjure the guy's soul to repent and get the money from him because the man was a banker.
All right. That's a quality start. So let's go ahead and mess this up. You can consider me the meddling producer. right? And we're going to jump into notes here, and I'm going to have you continue this story. And we're going to go with, can this whole thing take place at a creepy circus? All right. Let's do it.
Leaders to the circus, I guess.
Yes, so it's a bumper car accident.
How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the story can be the same. I guess the bank
2 miles an hour. All right, run with it. Electrocution, like I guess it could work. Sure.
And I guess the banker would have to be like the guy running the ticket stubs.
Okay.
On for a game, and now the guy is trying to conjure his spirit to find the stash of tickets so that he can
redeem them for a stuffed animal.
Yeah, and then sell them for money.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. A little struggle right here. That's all right.
It's great.
We're gonna call it. No, that's good. All right, so I'm going to throw in one more wrinkle, and then what I want you to do is just bring this home to a resolution for me, right? Get me a good ending. Let's do this. Yeah. This is good. I like the bumper car accident. That's going to be a favorite. Great, but how do we get this to appeal with families with toddlers?
Okay. I mean,
it's at a circus.
He's at a circus. I mean, you have to
add an animal companion, I guess.
He's right.
All right.
Right. Okay, so there was a dog, and the dog had something to do that caused the accident. He took the priest's attention. Okay, and so now the priest is with this dog trying to get the tickets, and the dog is sniffing where the guy's dead. The guy's dead body.
Okay.
He's trying to get to the tickets, and then the stuffed animals can be really cute as well. But in a twisted way, they're uncannily cute, and so he's trying to sell them back. Yeah, oh my god!
Get me to it. What's the ending? Give me an ending.
The ending is he manages to pay back his debts to the circus and free the guy's soul from working his 9 to 5 at the carnival.
Is the bumper car ride still going or no?
Yeah, he hit the guy in a bumper car accident.
All right. That's fine. Well, I didn't know if it was a big electrocution thing or whatever.
No, that's how the guy died. But the dog took the guy's attention. They crashed,
and he adopts the dog at the end.
Yeah,
so there you go.
The dog could have been the guy he killed's pet.
Hey,
it's like a
John Wick callback right there. Okay, so bravo. All right, yeah. So first pitch storm. Let's do this again, right? Okay. Let's go through this again.
I think I need the glasses. I think I'm giggling too
much. Yeah, we have definitely had some moments for these, but I love bumper car accident. That should be the name of a band. All right, so let's go. We're gonna go characters A or characters B on this next one.
I mean A again.
Let's do A again. All right, sounds good. Let's roll it and see who you get. Your protagonist, Mr. Josh Forbes, is a lifelong bachelor, not looking for anything serious.
All right, perfect.
Okay. Plots A or plots B?
A.
A again. Here we go. All right. Your lifelong bachelor. Trying to fix a public image after failing to stop a supervillain.
Okay.
Oh, wow. All right. So we need to identify powers, the villain, the whole thing. It's a lot to pack in, but take your time and start whenever you want to start.
I need a.
Give it a moment. Let it stew.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm there.
All right.
Okay, so I think this bachelor guy was trying to woo this girl by taking her to a really expensive diner across from the bank, right?
Okay.
And during that, the supervillain attacks, robs the bank, runs out, and he goes through the diner while he's escaping, and the guy there, the bachelor, Well, he's not a bachelor yet, but he thinks if he can stop that guy, it's like Riz. He's going to get the girl perfect.
Superhero Riz.
Right.
Nice.
So he tries to tackle the guy. He misses horribly, smashes his head into the other table, drenches the girl in wine or whatever. Supervillain guy escapes. And that's what turns him into why he's not looking for anything serious anymore, is because he's been so like just turned away from love. Like nobody would ever look at him as anything but a dork. He gets posted to social media.
Of course.
It's just his whole relationship is over. He's a bat. He's can't do anything right. Probably gets fired from his job. Like it's just awful.
All right. Well, I like the setup, man. That's a good one. I can see. This is why I like doing Pitch Storm. I'm gonna make a point when we're done here. But first, let's throw in some notes and let's totally screw you up and mess up the story and see what we got here.
Perfect.
I can't believe he got fired for failing his
We're making this for late night television, and we want to make this movie to put people to sleep. All right. So nothing too serious. It sounds like it's got some rom-com elements. So let's run with that.
There's no dialogue. It's a silent film.
Okay.
That's it. That's all you need to say.
I'm Susan. I got you.
It's a silent movie. All right. So like mimes, like just explain how this is working for me.
It's like it's old school television, really. I mean, the guy's very head over heels. His eyes probably turn into hearts. You can understand through gestures what's going on.
Are we going like full old school, like where you hear the piano and it shows like the written dialogue? Like on
yeah, every once in a while, the guy like falls on the piano. The conductor
just hits a note.
I imagine he dives into the table, right? And the table falls and everything falls apart, and then it just shows the words, ow!
That's right.
There you go.
You wouldn't take the time to write all right, so let's go ahead and give this our last spin, and you're gonna have to get this to a resolution for me. Our silent movie about to put people to sleep. One of the main character was a dashing and handsome studio executive. All right, how does that change the calculus? Annie, go ahead and wrap this story up for me. Get me to it. Get me to a good ending that we can sink our teeth into. Off we go.
Well, I mean, what would a bachelor be if he wasn't handsome and like dashing? So he takes this whole thing and he like locks himself in a room and he decides the only thing he can do to get over it is turn it into the best Hollywood movie anyone's ever seen, and it's the movie you're watching.
Oh, nice. I like that. A self-referential, like kind of meta thing. All right. Yeah, no, very good. You've survived 2 rounds of Pitch Storm, buddy. Like, that's good stuff. Look, this is fun, and you know what's interesting, and this is one of the reasons I love doing this, is when I heard you before, just going into like the just like Zach had said, and about you and about your writing, how you kind of lean into an emotional beat. Which you did with that. So it's really cool to see your brother highlight one of your strengths and then just in a random spontaneous moment have you illustrate that to us through spontaneous storytelling. And that's one of the, I mean, that's what it is. And one of the reasons it's so cool to do this kind of stuff, just to poke into people's creative brains, is because we spend about an hour and a half talking about your creative process and, you know, the things that you like to do and your influences and your strengths. And then just to have about a minute and a half where we're working through an improv story and you're showing us that. So it really is like prying open your brain for everybody to see, which is brilliant, man. So bravo. That's really, really cool. Really cool. So I want to wrap up with you guys. Won't keep you any later. But before we do that, obviously I want to have one more question for you, which is to anybody that's out there that is writing and authoring and doing their own thing. What advice would you give that person that's starting out on their journey, or that's maybe having a hard time, you know, or whatever it is, trying to find their own creative way in their own path? Do you have any advice for them?
You first.
I already answered this question. I don't remember how I answered.
Spoken like a true older brother.
I guess know what you're writing, research it as much as you can. Research writing as a medium as much as you can. If you don't want to get bullied off of Twitter, you need to understand how these things are going to work. I didn't know how hopping heads worked. I didn't know any of that when I was starting it. But luckily, I had a brother, and we kind of figured it all out together. And it's probably a lot harder to figure that stuff out on your own. But I think once you can see something like that and see, maybe if it's not the best story, you can at least see that it has the right setup, the right format. It looks like an official novel, and maybe that'll be enough for you to really get into it.
All right. Quality advice, man. Quality advice from a young author, and I absolutely love it. So let's wrap this up, guys. Give me that 30-second floor is yours again. For however you want to do this, tell your brother to hold up the book and talk about the book.
Yeah, obligatory. Hold up the book.
Yep, go for it. Yep. Floor is yours, guys. Say whatever you want.
Oh yeah, that's the second one.
Well, there you go. That's what Logan's going to start with.
Yeah, yeah. Logan, there you go. But yeah, no. Thank you everybody for coming out and watching us tonight. I don't often get to have my brother on with me, but I've been trying to do it more lately. And we've got our third book coming out June 20th. It's, like I said, very family oriented, a lot of fatherhood stuff. It's dark, it's a horror story, it's a zombie story. It's got some grittiness, it's got some violence. But it is one of the best stories we've told, I think. It centers a lot around like the faces we wear and, personalities and just characters in general. We love character work. That's our forte, is character arcs, character interaction. We love our characters more than anything else. So if you're interested in seeing a really heartful, character-focused post-apocalypse story, definitely check out the Continuum series. If you want to start with our latest and best, Tooth and Nail, out June 20th, you can pre-order it now. Or if you want to see from the beginning where Thomas comes from and how he ends up where he's at, start with Three Rivers Plague, all on Amazon. And let us know what you think, right? Leave us some reviews. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, Zach Forbes Bro, or Instagram, Prozac Daily. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah,
don't get too attached to anyone.
Yeah,
it's always good advice.
Being attached.
It's good advice. Josh, any final words on all this kind of stuff? How was your first MIRTH QUAKE experience?
It was great. I mean, it was probably the best interview I've done.
See, well, that's nice. We try to keep it chill here and all that kind of stuff. Just have a good time and get people to get to know you. That's really all it's about.
I appreciate you having me.
Oh, I appreciate you both being on, and it's like I said, this is near and dear to my heart to see two brothers working together on this kind of stuff. I think it's brilliant. I absolutely love everything about it, and looking forward to everything you guys are going to be doing moving forward. So I'm going to be following you guys closely for sure. And to everybody that was in the chat tonight, thank you guys for being here, being active, joining in the fun, and supporting the indie community with great stuff like this. If you are ever interested, if you're out there watching and you're interested in being on the show, it's super easy. Just go to mirthquake.show. There's a packet, download it, walks you through the whole thing. You can be in the Discord. We've got a good community going here, and I'm just looking to keep it going. So I am harvesting new people for the show once I get to the convention, because I've got little postcards that I'm handing out to just freaking everybody. So I'm hoping to grow this thing and just get us more eyeballs, more people involved, and everything else, because I'm just really enjoying the community. So to both of you guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate you both being on. Zach, it's always good to see you. Josh, it's really good to see you on here as well. And just hang out with me, and I'll say bye to you guys in the green room. Until then, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and everybody have a great night. Looks like I'll be back around. I'll be at the convention all week next week, and so I might do like some kind of a stream from there or something. I'm not sure, but other than that, I'll be back. MIRTH QUAKE will be back in about 2 weeks, so we'll go from there. But fellas, thank you so much. And to everybody in the chat, thank you guys. And we'll see you on the interwebs.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.